covered 3 states, 3 national forests. And on those 3 national forests, there's been one hell of a lot of people vanished. And his feeling is that the government knows that basically that these 3 national park systems, there might be alien bases there. That's what he claims. Now, everybody has their own assumptions. We don't know. But I can tell you this, that, I think I told you about Michael Hall, who does a show for me the last time you were on, that he has some real weird thing. They went up to Mount Adams, his group, to try to get, images of UFOs because it's a hot spot up there. And they had a encounter of something huge come up to them, then stop, and it was flashing, all these light type of thing. And some of the witnesses that were there said they saw like a laser shoot out, a blue laser shoot out on the side. And, he went to bed early that night because that thing left, but it made absolutely no sound. It wasn't a helicopter. It was too big for it. And again, it was just totally, you could hear nothing. But they did also hear some of the wood knocks around in the tree lines around there. But, he goes to bed. He has a CPAP machine to help him sleep and breathe. And it goes out about an hour after he goes to bed. Now, a couple of weird things, like I mentioned to you before. He has a watch that has phosphorus dials on it. So it's the type of thing, you if you're outside and it's bright, you go inside, you can read the time for about an hour, and then it fades out. It loses its charge. He claims when the machine went out, he got out of his 2 sleeping bags. This thing was glowing like brighter than it ever has. And he kind of thought that was strange. He goes out of the tent trailer and goes into a makeshift little porta potty thing, and he claims he was only in there maybe 3 minutes. Well, the time he comes back in, his friend already changed the 12-volt marine battery, or the battery for the CPAP machine, in his tent trailer, had it all working for him. And then his friend wakes up and says, well, where you been? The guy was gone for like over an hour. And all he remembers, he went out to go urinate and come right back. And then a lot of weird things has been going on. In the morning, he found like these little triangle marks on his wrists, punchers, which wasn't there the night before. And really cold. Now, it could have been bugs in the sleeping bag. I don't know. But one of the guys was so cold, he decided to go sleep in his car with his son. Again, the car, I guess, after a while wouldn't start. I figured maybe it was too cold. Maybe the battery's getting weak. Not enough current to turn over the engine. But the next morning, They're walking by, and somebody had a compass, and it was going crazy by the guy's car. So that got the attention of everybody in the group with their compasses. They went there, and all of a sudden, this car is like a magnet. So they have the guy move the car from a different location, back it up. They check the ground. Well, the ground is normal. The compass is acting normal. They go back to the car. Now the car's a magnet. Really kind of strange. And then I was talking to Michael maybe a month ago, and I was asking him questions. I said, okay, well, have you ever took a compass to your wrist where those puncture marks were? He goes, no. I said, do you have one? He goes, yeah, I got a compass. And he went and got it. He checked that wrist. And believe it or not, it went crazy. I had him check his other wrists, normal. Now, he did wear steel toe boot boots during that trip. And I said, okay, well, why don't you check your boots? Well, the left boot matches the left arm, right? It goes crazy with the compass. And then he checks the right one, and it doesn't. And it just kind of strange. I mean, like he lost an hour, the supposedly, and it was a whole bunch of other eerie things that happened that night. It just makes me wonder if he maybe was abducted or some type of encounter, because I've interviewed probably about 8 or 9 people the past year that claim they've been abducted. I've interviewed 2 of them. It's been, have the implants removed by Dr. Roger Lear. So, I mean, something happened with those people, and it just makes you wonder, what's going on out here.
Yeah, well, it certainly does. That is fascinating how, you could have, seemingly like half of a person's body magnetized, essentially, or at least the items on it magnetized. What kind of effect would be so localized, that it could, only magnetize, half of the things on somebody's body, basically bifurcating them and just affecting, their left half. It's maddening. I don't know what to make of stuff like that. And, missing time obviously it's a staple of the UFO phenomenon. If he doesn't have any specific memories of abduction, I mean, who knows? And not to say that they won't come later, since that seems to be a pretty common scenario too. But I mean, without any specific memories, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe these are just effects created by some completely unknown phenomenon that, makes people black out. And, maybe he was sitting somewhere in a trance for an hour. Maybe he was somehow in an area where time worked differently for, where he was in this area for, 3-5 minutes, and everybody else around him waited an hour. And then suddenly he came back where, to his perception, he was only gone for a few minutes. I mean, there could be all kinds of distortions and things, I think, that could potentially be responsible for that kind of reported phenomena. I mean, he didn't mention specifically, being contacted by anything that seemed to have its own intelligence or anything. Not they weren't communicating necessarily with anything, right?
No, he didn't. And, he actually been hypnotized, and he was going to do it some more. And I got to find out, what has happened since then. But, that's the part, that kind of scares me. I know the guy, he's very reliable. Like I said, he's a host. He's actually a practicing attorney in the state of Washington. He was a judge for one of the county Superior Court judge pro tem. So, I mean, the guy is very credible. But, his CPATH machine has a very sophisticated computer in it. And it shows an hour of, actually over an hour of non-usage. And the temperature was he said it was around 28 degrees outside there, and he wasn't dressed to be outside. So whatever happened to him, I don't know. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 possibilities that I can think of. Either he was taken someplace where the temperature wouldn't affect him, or, he was in some sort of, temporal distortion or something, some other seemingly, science fiction sort of environmental effect where time passed differently for him for whatever reason. I mean, people have discussed the idea, that temporal distortions are, even sort of like a side effect of the means that, ET craft would need to power themselves. So they're just the power necessary to allow interstellar travel and things would create these kinds of like weird distortions that could affect time and all other, you know, kinds of stuff like that. So, I mean, who knows? It certainly seems strange, and I believe him. You know, like he seems like a trustworthy, credible person. So, yeah, it's definitely strange. You know.
Well, and then you also have the Earth magnetic fields. All of a sudden, it's you know, it's been moving, you know, for years, but now all of a sudden it's moving really fast. So I think there's a lot of Earth changes going on. I don't know if that can be causing some of this stuff, but I will get back to one thing about him. They saw a craft that came over them and stopped, and it was quiet. It was big. It was oscillating different lights. Witnesses claim they saw a blue laser shoot out of it, out of the side of it. So I don't know. I don't go around looking for UFOs, so I'm not one of those people that do. I'm not one of those people who go out looking for Bigfoot either, because my feeling is you're not going to find one. When you find any of those things is when you're not prepared, you're not looking, and all of a sudden, then that's when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree with that. You know, I certainly don't have a lot of faith in many of the people who, you know, who claim to be able to, you know, sort of discover those phenomena on demand. You know, you start talking about, you know, some of the more questionable figures in cryptozoology or ufology or you know, any of the related disciplines. I think that if anybody could find them reliably, they would be absolutely proven, and we wouldn't have to be, you know, on the fringes talking about them.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I you know, from a safety perspective, I mean, especially I guess those two, because when you think about sort of some of the negative repercussions that can come from paranormal experiences, I would think, just off the top of my head, that encounters with Bigfoot and UFOs have got to be like the top two as far as chances of something terrible happening to you. You know, those are the two phenomena I think most closely associated with things like abduction, for instance, because, you know, people have been reportedly abducted by Sasquatch too, and you know, sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't. But yeah, you know, you're probably better off not going out, you know, seeking these things out necessarily. Whether or not it's possible to find them by seeking them out, I don't know. You know, again, I think if it was, then they would be completely proven by this point. Although, you know, maybe people do find them, and you know, then they just aren't ever seen again too. I mean,
well,
I can tell you.
I also go to another view of Bigfoot and stuff like that. I did see one, and
yeah.
I know when I get people on that tell me they see him, I start asking questions, because once you actually seen one, then you know when somebody's kind of jiving you a little bit, or you know, or making stuff up. But you know, again, how do we actually know that a Bigfoot is a Bigfoot? Because, you know, again, talking to the medicine woman a few years ago, the Muckleshoot Indian tribe, I was talking to her about Bigfoot, and she was talking about going generations and generations back. And then we were talking around the 1800s and around there. And she claimed that, you know, that the Bigfoot, or at least up for the Muckleshoot tribe area, were a very nuisance. They would actually come in and steal stuff. The women would be, you know, the squaws would be down at the river, you know, washing clothes with their babies, and then, you know, a group of Bigfoots would come running through and grab the babies or grab a squaw, and then that's usually the end of what